Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be taking a look at the latest pilot watch release from the Swiss brand Longines. And that is the watch in my hand right now. This is the Longines Spirit Prestige Edition. And as the model name suggests, this watch is supposed to evoke or capture the spirit of the long-standing history that Longines has within the aviation industry. And I actually gotta say that this watch really blew me away with its fit and finish, as well as some of the specs that it comes along with for the price point. Moreover, this is actually the first time I've had hands-on experience with a Longines for the channel, and given the execution of this watch, I don't think it's going to be my last one. So why don't we flip the camera around now and you guys can actually check out this watch up close in my studio. So I did want to show you guys the full kit that comes if you go with the Prestige edition of the Longines Spirit, which not only comes with the watch on the bracelet, you also get a couple of additional leather straps to accompany it. And if you go in this configuration, the watch will run you about $37.50 Canadian dollars. Now you probably could save yourself some money on the gray market, or you can also opt to buy this watch just with the bracelet, and in that case you're going to save about $700 to $800. And that's typically how I advise people to buy watches, on their factory bracelet, and you can accessorize with your own straps later. Now that said, this watch does have an odd 21mm lug opening, and that's really only one of the main critiques I have about this watch, but the supplied leather strap here is quite nice. It's a bolstered blue leather, white contrast stitch, signed Longines buckle, and all of the straps come with nice quick release pins too for quick changes to the bracelet or different straps. Now if a NATO strap is more your thing, this one is actually a very nice thin single pass brown leather NATO. It also has the quick release spring bars built into the strap and the assigned Longines hardware. Now picking up this watch in hand, there is a very nice feel of overall build quality. So let's talk about the dimensions, and then I'll go into the actual specs for this timepiece. I measure with my calipers exactly 40mm in case diameter. If you flip this watch to the side, the lug to lug between my thumbs right here is 49.5mm, but if you include the male end links on the supplied bracelet, that actually extends the effective lug to lug by a couple of millimeters on each side. Now case thickness is 12.4. That's to the bottom of the case back that does have screws holding it in place, to the top of this dome sapphire crystal that has an excellent anti-reflective treatment on the sapphire to give you excellent viewing angles. And as I did mention, the lug opening here is an odd 21mm. Surprisingly enough, if you want to pick up the 42mm version of this watch, it has a nice and even 22mm lug gap. So consider that if you really like accessorizing with your own straps in the future. Now the dial on the Longines Spirit is really the star of the show in my opinion. I think it breaks the mold from more traditional pilot watches that just have a printed Arabic numerals on the dial, in the sense that you also have a very nice blue radial sunburst pattern as the base of the dial, and all of the Arabic numerals are done in applique, as well as the Longines logo just below the 12 and the 5 stars just above the chronometer at the 6 o'clock position. Now this applied dial furniture does give this dial a bit more depth. In addition to that, if you look at the very periphery of the dial, it's nicely appointed with like a railroad style minute track from 0 to 60, but you can actually see that that minute track is also raised compared to the base of the dial. And at each of the hour markers, there's also a diamond cutout that's actually etched out of the railroad track there. So that just shows some very nice attention to detail for this particular watch. You do have a date cutout at the 3 o'clock position, and instead of having the date disc color matched with a blue, it's more of a black, and then you have white printing for high contrast. So overall legibility for this watch is extremely good. Now, even if you consider low light situations, I was very impressed with just the polished applied indices, how they show up in low light. And in no light situations, this watch performs extremely well because all of the numerals as well as the hand stack do have a gorgeous application of Swiss Superluminova. And I'll throw up a low light shot now, just so you guys can see how well it actually performs. It's quite potent and long lasting, and a very nice even application across all of the Arabic numerals as well as the handset, including that loomed tip at the seconds hand, which reaches out to the very edge of the dial, so getting an accurate read of time is quite easy to do. Now, some people were wondering why you have the 5 stars logo just above the chronometer printing on the dial. And traditionally, that was Longines' way of ensuring good timekeeping and overall quality. So this watch actually utilizes the Longines caliber L888.4, and that's a quasi in-house movement. What I mean by that is it's an ETA-based movement, but ETA exclusively makes that movement for Longines, which is a 21 joule movement. It beats away at about 25,200 vibrations per hour, has a very generous 64-hour power reserve, and some other upgrades including a silicone hairspring to help against magnetic fields. Now, the operation of this movement as well as time setting is quite easy to do with this beautiful oversized crown that does have a Longines engraved on the side. It's kind of one of those onion style pilot watch crowns. It is screwed down, so you have to unscrew it, and in the neutral position you can manually wind this movement, and it is absolutely buttery smooth. This crown action reminds me of what you would see on like an Omega Aquaterra or Seamaster. If you pop it out into the first position, you can quickly cycle through the different days of the month here. And then, of course, if you pull the crown all the way out, you can actually hack the movement by stopping the seconds hand, adjust the time however you like to any reference, and then start it back up again. And rethreading the crown is extremely easy to do as well. Because you do have a screw down crown, this watch is afforded 100 meters of water resistance, which is really nice to see in a pilot watch. Now, if we move away from the dial, we can look at the case finishing, which again is executed to a very high level. You can see the intermediate finishes on the fixed bezel, where you have a bit of a brushing at the very top, a polished bevel here, and then a brushing right before you get to the actual mid case. The polish work on or beveling on the side of the case is phenomenal, and you get almost a distortion-free mirror polish, similar to like the Zaratsu polishing Grand Seiko puts out. And I even like how they truncated these lugs. They're nice and angular, and you can see there's a clear line of delineation for that polished edge compared to some of the more satin finish on the side. The bracelet is also finished quite well. So there is a bit of taper to it. It's 21 millimeters at the head, going down to about 18 before you hit the clasp. And you can see the intermediate finish here. You got some nice satin tops with some intermediate polishes along the fine bevels of the mid-link. And the sides are also done in high polish. And the articulation on this bracelet is actually quite good. Even though that male end link sticks out, you can stack up these links quite easily. And they are sized with just push pins though. It would have been nice to see some slot screw adjustment here, but you just need a pin press and you can punch out each of those links. And sizing it is also easy because the clasp here has 5 layers of micro adjustment anchoring points. Now this clasp is a little bit short but very thin. You do have Longines that is printed and a very well brushed to the top of a clasp. Nice polished bevel to the side. Opening up, you do get a nice milled portion here. You can see I still have some of the actual stickers on the milled portion of a clasp. And then if you actually look at the end links here, similar to how the leather straps had quick release pins, there's a quick release mechanism if you depress the button here under the actual end links, and you can quickly swap out this metal bracelet for any strap option you want. So here's how the watch looks sized up for my 19 centimeter circumference wrist, which is 7.5 inches if you're going imperial. And I think it's actually sitting quite comfortable. Even though the effective lug to lug is quite long, it does sit a little flat on your wrist, but the bracelet overall balances out the head of the watch quite well. I should mention on the bracelet and sized up for my wrist, this watch comes in a very comfortable 140 grams. So you do get a bit of wrist presence with this timepiece. So guys, at the end of the day, I'm actually kind of blown away by all the features you're getting considering the price point of this pilot watch. And if you consider some other Swiss manufacturers of aviation timepieces like IWC or RS, they typically will only give you a printed dial, they'll give you a standard based ETA or Solita movement, and they typically won't have any innovations in terms of quick release mechanisms for their bracelets or straps. And for me, I'm a really big fan of how Longines executed the dial of this watch with all of the applied indices and logos. The overall case finishing is phenomenal. And the upgraded movement with a silicone hairspring and a 64-hour power reserve is quite a welcome addition. Now, if they would just make the lug gap here an even 20 millimeters for the 40 millimeter variation of this watch, and maybe made the end links here a little bit shorter, I don't think there'd be much competition from any other brands picking up a pilot watch in that mid-Swiss luxury price tier. But as always, guys, I'd love to hear your feedback and what you guys think about this watch in the comments below. Please drop me a like if you enjoy this content. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.